Hi everyone, and welcome to the third episode of Lucy the Epi Kitty. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about compound solutions, the pros, the cons, and also going into some of the details about a horrible experience that I had with compounds. I want to start off this video by saying that I'm not a veterinarian, nor do I have any sort of medical background, so please always consult with your veterinarian before making any changes to your epileptic cat's medical regimen. That being said, I am going to talk about my experience with compounds. Now, when I first got Lucy, and I did fact check myself, I cross-referenced my social media, I did get her in February of 2017. So I don't know why I thought it was 2014, 2015. Time is just a blur, I guess. But yes, we got her in 2017. Initially, she was just on Keppra, that wasn't doing anything, so we decided to add phenobarbital into the mix, as well as Valium into the mix. So when we incorporated these drugs, we did so at a low dose. Now, some of you may be asking, why Valium? That seems a little bit extreme, and I will say that this came from a neurologist who indicated that her seizures were so frequent and so severe that Valium was an option for her and it may better control her seizures. So we did include initially a very small dose of Valium and a very small dose of phenobarbital to see how her body would react to that and if it would give her any sort of help. Now, we decided to start with compounds because the biggest pro and the biggest plus to compound solutions is that they are easy to administer. They come in a liquid form, right? So you can give it to your cat fairly easy. Just put the syringe in the mouth, have them take it. It actually tastes pretty good. Like I said, they can come in different flavors. We did chicken. So there are a lot of pros to that. You can also put it in the food, although I don't know that most people would recommend putting the compound solution and compounded medicine in the food because it's so important that your cat gets the full dose of the medicine, and you need to ensure that the cat finishes the whole meal in order to get that full dose. So if you're doing that, my recommendation would be to put out just the tiniest bit of food, not the full food. Have them eat the whole thing with the compounded solution, and then you can give them the rest of the food. So just a little trick, for those of you who are having issues administering compound solutions, even with the flavor and even as a liquid. So, biggest con to compound solution is of course the cost. They do tend to be more expensive than pills, but a lot of people choose them for the sake of convenience. Now I'm going to get into my experience with compound solutions. So for those of you who are on the fence about whether or not to move forward with a compound solution for your cat's medical regimen or a pill medicine, I just think it's important to share my account and my negative experience with compound solutions. So like I said, huge con is that they cost or tend to cost more depending on where you live. I was paying $65 a month for compounded Valium and another $65 a month for compounded phenobarbital for a total of $130 a month. That's a lot, right? So when we included these two drugs in addition to the 250 milligrams of Keppra, we were not seeing any difference in her seizure activity. So I went to the neurologist and I asked her what we should do, so she decided to increase the dose, which we did. We would slowly increase it and see if there was any reduction in the seizure activity and the frequency and so on and so forth. Once again, we did not see any difference. So the neurologist was stumped and a little bit confused as to why we were not seeing any sort of decrease in the frequency of her seizures. So she recommended that we go get a phenobarbital level test, which I did. I went and got the phenobarbital level test, and the neurologist indicated that the phenobarbital levels were very low. They were not within therapeutic range. They were below therapeutic range. So once again, we decided to go back and increase. Now at this point, we had more than doubled her phenobarbital and her Valium, and we're still not seeing any sort of noticeable difference. So after, I think this went on for 7 months, right, where I was going back and forth, I checked the phenobarbital levels again a couple of months later, and I'm still dealing with these seizures. There's really not a reduction in frequency, and even after doubling the dose, the phenobarbital levels were stagnant. So now I'm going back to the neurologist once again, and I asked her, like, what gives? Why aren't her phenobarbital levels getting any higher? We've now more than doubled her dose. It was like 2.5 times more than what she initially started off. The blood work should reflect that. She said one of two things is happening here. And mind you, this journey, this whole thing happened over several months. So we couldn't get down to the bottom of it for months. And for months she suffered as a result. We were told by the neurologist, either you're not administering the phenobarbital and the Valium correctly, she's not taking it, or there's something wrong with the compounded solution. So I went to the pharmacy and I let them know I had taken 2 phenobarbital level tests, and during the course of that time, her phenobarbital level has remained essentially stagnant. How is this possible if I know I'm administering the medication? And I indicated, the neurologist said that it's likely that the compounded solution that I'm paying $65 a month for, and not just for the Valium, not just for the phenobarbital, that the compounded solution was ineffective. Now, initially the pharmacy was dodgy. They said they would look into it, but I was still getting these compounds from this pharmacy. Now I am going to call the pharmacy out. It's Best Pet RX, and they're located in Manhattan, New York. I have no qualms with calling them out. I've reached an agreement with them years ago, but yeah, I'm still pretty sour about it because I watched Lucy suffer for months needlessly when she could have had her seizures better controlled if I had gotten a compound that actually worked. So I did tell them, look, here's the proof that her phenobarbital levels have not changed and that we've now more than doubled the phenobarbital dose as well as the Valium dose, and she's still having all these seizures. And I told them that if they did not cut me a check for the medicine that I paid for over the course of, and I do think it was 7 months, over the course of the 7 months that I purchased through their pharmacy, and for all the veterinary expenses that I encountered in between, that I would seek legal counsel, that I would take them to court, that I would file a complaint with the Department of Consumer Affairs, that I would file a complaint with BVD. I was ready to go to war with them, quite frankly. Eventually, they did write me a check, not just for all the months of the medicine that she had gotten from this pharmacy, but also for the medical expenses, the vet visits, the phenobarbital level tests. Hell, I even threw in the tolls to get over the bridge for reimbursement. I was so angry, but as soon as we switched over her dose into the pill form, she was a zombie. The seizures stopped, but she was a zombie. So, moral of the story here, the lesson to be taken away from here, again, I'm only speaking to my experience. If compounds work for you, that's great. You know, stick with your regimen if it works for you. But my experience was horrific, and I really hope that no one has to go through that and watch their animal suffer needlessly on account of human error and botched compound solution. So, a lot of you may not know this, but it is a risk with compound solutions. This is always a personal choice. Pilling is obviously a lot more difficult. I mean, hell, I lost a nail today trying to pill Lucy. Typically she's really good with the pilling. Today she's not so great. She was running away from me. She made it difficult for me. So I get why compounds can be great. Just be aware that there is a risk of having a botched compound, and that could very easily negatively impact your seizure frequency. That being said, I hope you guys learned something, took something away from this video. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to drop them below. Take care, guys.